Okay. Sorry. Got it. All right, Mel, take it away.
Okay, great, thanks. And I appreciate you guys giving me the time to share some information with you tonight. For those of you I don't know that I've met before, I'm Mel Davis with Leisure Services, and I wanted to kind of bring one of these ideas to you that we are presenting to Mayor and Commission, and it does involve the Rainbow Forest. And to give you a little backstory on this, we actually have a grant opportunity that is through the Georgia DNR Recreational Trails Program. And we're always looking at different grant opportunities and ways to stretch our dollars further. We were actually looking at a few different projects and at the ribbon cutting, and since then, watching people interact with the Rainbow Forest, it occurred to me that this one is a really great fit for the Recreational Trails program because I know the intent was originally not for this to be interactive, but people really just want to interact with this piece of art. And when I saw it at the ribbon cutting, I was like, wow, well, you just want to go up there. You can't help it. You want to go up there. So I was looking at the grant opportunity to see, this would be a good fit, and was talking to our design team, and we actually this ribbon cutting and all of our deadlines internally with mayor and commission and everything hit pretty close. So we've come up with a concept pretty rapidly that we are taking before mayor and commission and work session tomorrow night, and we would have it up for voting session in October. And the whole idea behind this is to provide an inclusive access route that connects the greenway to the art. And by inclusive, I'm talking about, meeting the Architectural Barriers Act guidelines, which is what the federal government uses for outdoor recreation access routes. And so that is providing a slope that's 10% for 30 feet with a 5-foot resting spot, and meeting that all the way up until we get to the art, and then providing a firm and stable surface within the artwork so that someone can come up, enjoy the artwork, and if they have any sort of mobility device, or even if they just have mobility issues, they're able to get in and experience the art from the inside. So one of the things we were talking about for that was, and speaking with Tatiana as we were kind of hatching this idea, was the idea of a turf type material that does provide the accessibility while meeting that grass feel that I believe the artist was looking for, something as part of this forest. So that is the concept, and I'm just going to share my screen for a second and I'll show you. And this is just a loose project concept at this time. There are a couple of things that I wanted to share, especially with you guys. Hold on. Share content. Okay. I've gotten pretty good at this sharing thing. So hopefully, if this comes out right, I'm actually sharing you one of the slides from my
Yeah,
PowerPoint.
we see it.
Okay, so this should be large enough for you to see. You can see the area of Dr. MLK Parkway. We have the Greenway here, and you can see this darker gray curvy line is what we're looking at for the access path. And then we have a place for observation for the bench. We are adding some other pieces of this, and some of you may be aware that there's a whole big restoration project going on along this section of Greenway and all this area. And the Office of Sustainability has a grant that's also through the Georgia DNR for GOSP, which is providing a lot of restoration, removal of invasive plants, restoration of native species in this area. And part of that had already been cut out for the art. And what we tried to do as a design team was ensure that we keep this project within that envelope. There's a few places where it bleeds out. So I went ahead and contacted the Office of Sustainability and talk to them. And we're in ongoing conversations and meeting on site of what it would take for site grading, what it looks like, and what it takes for them to have a comfort level with this project. And we've come to the agreement of providing fencing around the project and up to some different areas, a couple of access gates that give them fresh access points to their restoration area, and just being able to coexist this project with the restoration project, and then once we're done with construction and everything, going back in and reseeding with the same wildflower mix that they'll be using. So there's a couple of pieces to this that we are working through, and we have a grant application deadline of November 1st. So that's why everything's moving pretty quickly through the mayor and commission process. But then once we get that underway, we can start refining. We're working on a rough grading plan right now internally, so that way we'll know a little more of the areas of impact for the construction. But this is the concept. This is what we're looking at. And we have, just going to go ahead and scroll through. We're looking at using our park improvements funds that we have as part of our SPLOST 2020 program. And that is meant to be used for repairs and kind of replacement of projects. But understanding that this was a great opportunity to stretch some dollars further, and we do need to identify matching, that is something we're looking at. I don't know if you feel like you've already spent enough money on this group, or if you had any capital you could kick into that, but we are trying to figure out, because at the end of the day, what was our budget? We're looking at about $18,000 to match this grant, which really, if we're able to get this, is a great value to provide this level of connectivity, especially in an inclusive format. So really hoping that, and thinking we're going to have a strong proposal. It's not a very long piece of path, but it's a very important path, I feel, and I think it'll be really great to provide people with some safe, inclusive access. So that's kind of what I got. I was just wanting to see what you got, how you guys felt, thoughts, comments. I'm here to listen.
Yeah, what's needed from us for the purposes of this grant application?
We don't have to have anything from you for the grant application, but it would be nice to have some sort of support or indication of support from the group, just that, we're not going willy-nilly and putting in some pathway that you guys are just saying, no, we don't want access to the art. That would be very helpful and just a nice piece to add to that, just
Yeah,
as a
we could
partner.
certainly do a letter of support. That's easy enough.
Okay.
Tell us about the proposed fencing suggestion.
Okay. And
So this would be just to kind of protect the restoration area from anyone visiting the site, basically.
that's
So people
correct.
don't
That
wander into that area that's kind of supposed to remain untouched, because there is some concern, because the art is so large and it took on such a large footprint. It is very close to the edge, and as as we build this out and make it more accessible, there, ideally there will be more folks up there, kind of making this into its own sort of little park. So that's mostly to kind of protect that restoration area. And Mel, would that stay there?
Yes, I can tell
After
you actually what I've been
construction?
talking with the Office of Sustainability about, and what they're looking at is, if you look further down MLK toward North Avenue, there's that two rail wood kind of split rail fencing, which is consistent with what we use just as kind of a stay out of this area type of fence that's still attractive but also blends into the natural environment. So we're not talking chain link or anything like that. It's that kind of two
Like
rail
that
split
wooden
rail.
trail fence that,
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah, so it would go around and be far enough off of the art that, we're providing the accessible surface out, like in a boundary outside the art. So truly, if someone needs to get up there and they have a mobility device, they're able to traverse the entire piece of artwork. And then providing enough of a buffer for landscape to get their mowers and anything like that around if they need to. So that's what we're looking at. And then the fence would outline that area. And then same thing for kind of coming around and looking at just what is a good line. And it is just to keep people from wandering into
Yeah.
the restoration
So
area.
this would be similar to what we would see at any park in Athens-Clarke County, in areas where, there's a lot of overgrowth, and it's beyond the trail, beyond the usable area, basically.
And currently there was an old driveway. They access some of the restoration area by the old driveway that's kind of at the foot where this trail starts.
Hey, Mel,
And
can you use your cursor and show us a little bit about where that's going to be? Because you're using your finger, but that doesn't help any of us that can't see your screen.
I'm trying to use my cursor. Can you not see it moving?
The tiny little cursor.
It's
Yes.
you see it? I'm wiggling it around while I'm talking with my other hand. Sorry.
I see it. I think it's just really small, so it's hard for us to see. That's all.
I'm trying. You know what? Is there? No, this doesn't have the tools like. Wait a minute. Annotate. Do I have permission to do that? Hold on, because here comes the annotation. This is my favorite. Okay. Let's see if it's going to let me do it. Y'all
You
ready?
guys can also hit Control+ to blow it up on your own screen at home.
Ooh, that was not the annotation. Okay, you guys ready for my annotation here? Okay. So, what we're talking about here, and I'm still on the eraser. All can see. All right, I'm on my marker tool, and why will it not come off of that? Pen tool. Okay. The current access is this driveway that's right about here. Y'all remember that? So by putting this in, they wouldn't be able to park there. What we're looking at, there's a old driveway cut up here, providing them a gate here so they can get in this way. Then, it's a good fence color. Green sounds good. We're looking at how far off of here, do we need to provide the fence? And, I'm just saying that, it would be something like this. We're not exactly sure of the final thing, but the whole idea is just to kind of protect the restoration area outside of the project area.
So the green
Basically-
line is sort of the fencing rough outline. Is that what the green line is?
It's just saying that's kind of the idea behind the fencing.
Gotcha.
We
Perfect.
have not laid it out specifically yet because our landscape architect in our Office of Park Planning, he is doing a rough grading plan to see where the grading is going to go. And then we're in ongoing talks with the Office of Sustainability about where exactly that fence is going to go. And we're using our survey instruments and everything, and we'll be laying that out as we make sure we get everything set with the grades and everything. But that's the concept of what we're trying to do with the fence, is just keep the people inside looking at the art and not wandering into the restoration.
And that line kind of follows along sort of the outline of that. It's sort of a plateau area here. So while it looks like a wider area and that's kind of making it more narrow at the top, it's really just kind of following the contour of that whole flat part of that plateau.
And it could go like that. We've got to look. So, I mean, it's just, this is very general. There's fence close by to protect the restoration area is the whole idea. So, and then probably some fence along here just to prevent people from trying to pull off or anything and park. It's a little steep, but yeah, it's kind of a blind hill there. So it would all flow.
Mel,
Yes.
what, can you explain the path itself?
Sure.
What will that be made of? Will that be concrete?
You are correct. It would be an 8-foot wide concrete path.
So my second question is, what kind of turf? I mean, I know about regular old turf, but is there a special kind that people who do parks know
Hang
about?
on.
Stronger, better, and all that than what I might be familiar with?
Sure. And when I say turf, I'm not talking about natural grass because that really isn't that accessible of a surface. I'm stopping sharing for a second. I'm going to pull up an email with a link of, this is a similar product in the same company that is being looked at for the over at the dog kind of area over at Animal Services. And so it's an artificial turf. And let me get to this page. And I'll share this. This is kind of the idea of what we're thinking about and what we based our cost estimate on. Okay, share. Can you see that? Okay, so it's kind of this, that's artificial grass.
That
But
looks surprisingly natural. My first reaction was aesthetic worry, but
Yeah,
that looks really natural, at least in this picture. That's great.
Is it permeable enough to prevent stormwater runoff that's gonna be a problem?
it's somewhat permeable, but it's not going to count as a pervious surface just because of the compaction you have to get in there. And if we end up going with a product that you more or less lay over existing grade, it'll absorb some, but there probably will be a little bit of offload, but I don't think it's a lot. It'll still absorb because the substructure under there. We're not putting concrete or anything like that under the yard. So these are kind of their canine grass.
Are you asking because you're concerned about ponding?
Well, there are just, paving over things, whether it's with concrete or non-permeable surfaces of any kind is an issue.
Well, according to this canine grass, if it allows urine to flow through it, just reading this description here, I'm hoping the stormwater will go through. And hopefully, this seems like it's designed to be permeable because it is based for a dog park type of application. So
The county may have some sort of regulations as to how much space you can cover with something like this.
5,000 square feet before it triggers stormwater. This is about 1,500.
Okay.
Yep. And then the pathway is a multi-use path, which is it has an exemption through the stormwater code, and the water can flow across the path and into the surrounding grass and natural areas and infiltrate through there, so it doesn't trigger a stormwater issue as well. But yeah, I was just looking at the product specs when you said that, and I said, oh, flow through backing, and I read, oh, if it's for dogs, it'll work for the rain. So
No. Dogs pee 15 inches.
I have another question. So when the mowers come, I'm not sure how much mowing there will be to do. I would not like to see turf in a rectangle under the rainbow forest and then real grass or whatever that had to be mowed going from that square to the fence. What about the turf that goes to since the fence looks like it might be tight around there, or at least formed in some shape other than just a square green spot? Maybe mowers wouldn't even have to do much mowing at all if we extended that. So I don't know, I just visually, I think just one square of turf in the middle of regular grass might look weird.
okay, hang on. I'm going to get back to the plan so we can talk about this from the plan. Hold on. So I hear what you're saying. Blending that in. Hold on. Okay. Oh my, where did that go? Okay. Okay. Should be plan coming up again. You good there? So what we've been talking about with this is there would be around the outside. We were talking about it coming out 5 feet past the columns on the outside, just to provide that turning radius and that space for people to weave in and out. It does have a border that holds the turf that would come around. It's like it's not like a big border, but it's just a boundary for the turf. So what that transitions into, and what we were talking about, was one mower width mowed along the edge of the path just to keep people comfortable, and one mower width around kind of this whole installation. Because they will, if we don't mow at least that around it, people tend to not feel quite so comfortable in the space if we let the wildflowers go right up to the edge, if that makes sense. We might be able to pull some of that off.
Saying maybe expand this turf so it's not in that square shape, but it fits the curve of the fence a little more. Does that make
We'll
sense?
see how the fence lays out, because I don't, again, so I'm hesitant to draw a line of the fence because we haven't laid it out. It could be a curve, it could be a, I don't know yet, because we still got to work that out with Office of Sustainability. But we can, so you're saying whatever the turf is, take it to the edge of the fence.
I'm just thinking that that might be it would look better. Of course, that would add expenses to your budget, but I don't know. I'm just trying to visualize everything. And I'm also wondering, it would be wheelchair accessible up to the turf anyway, but would it be wheelchair accessible fairly easy on the turf?
That's why we're doing the turf, because it is an accessible surface. Rather than doing sod, which isn't, because this has an underlayment and it's firm and stable. So that's why we were looking at this canine turf product.
Okay.
And in discussions with the artist, his only request was that it not be concrete in the middle, because that would just kind of make it very harsh. So when we initially had talked about grass, that's why they were widened for mowers. But then there was additional discussion with, well, how accessible is grass even? And so this will have the feel of grass while still being a safe, stable surface for people to stand on, or, if they have a walker or a wheelchair or another mobility aid, it would be a little more stable than organic material, but not as harsh looking as just more concrete. So.
And I've been working on a lot of different inclusion. I've been through a lot of inclusion training here lately, but also working on making our sites more inclusive. And as we do new things, keeping inclusion in mind. And this particular installation, I've learned, and through conversations with some parents with even children that have mobility issues, need to use mobility devices, that grass isn't, just like mown grass is not accessible. And so this turf provides that grass aesthetic, and this, and like someone said, it actually is better looking, because I had that terrible stuff that people would roll out, you know what I'm talking about? That's kind of what popped in my head when I first heard the artificial turf. And then when I saw that, I was like, okay, that does not look so bad. And I actually went out on a little visit to the Mall of Georgia this weekend and looked at a similar product that's been installed out there in an amphitheater, and it looks very nice. And it has like a brick boundary and everything. So doing my homework on this turf.
My neighbors put in a pool, and they have an artificial turf that goes around the pool area, and it looks fairly natural. I would say that because the design is so rectilinear and so square, I think having, rectilinear fence alignment would fit better and feel more comfortable than to try to curve it or do something naturalistic around the space, just because it's on that really distinctive grid. And I'm not saying the whole thing should be, straight lines. Certainly there would need to be a place to transition to something else, but the turf, I think, would fit better if it were, squared, more formalized, because it's such a formal design.
We could use the golden mean to extend the turf to 1.5 times beyond. We could really get technical with this if we wanted to, but I hear the rectilinear design, and that is one thing I have Todd, our landscape architect, is working closely with Mike on this fence location and layout. And Todd's very good at user experience and aesthetics, so I'm going to let him know your comments here and see what he can work up through while negotiating with Office of Sustainability on fence location and layout and see what we can get done.
Other thing that I was going to mention is that, you know, there's such a nice visibility of that feature from the little trail, the original trail, Greenway trail that heads from the, that's on the flat ground. You know, it was, the grass had gotten really, really tall and kind of obscured the visibility of that area. And I'm wondering if there's a way to delineate shorter native grasses in there just to create more of a vista alignment from the pathways. Rather than to try, I know that they're using some pretty tall grasses in there, at least what I saw. And there are some shorter native grasses that could be used just to keep the slope from getting those big tall grasses.
I will bring that up. I do know that there is a pre-approved mix that is for this area, and there is a very specific mowing schedule, and it did get mowed to kind of for part of the ribbon cutting and come down there, but it was out of cycle, and that's caused some significant issues with the restoration effort. So we will not be doing that again. So as far as looking if this grading, if some of this is impacted with grading, is there the possibility of using some shorter grasses? I think we can explore that, because I think one of the discussion points with this is, as we work through this, the area inside of the fence will be our responsibility to restore and maintain on our own. So if they would approve of us putting some lower grasses in there rather than using the mix that's everywhere else, I can certainly explore that as an alternative and see how they feel.
Well, I mean, there's going to be grading impacts along that entire accessible route. So it seems like that would be a great opportunity to maybe use the little blue stem and maybe a little blue stem and wildflower mix in there instead of the tall grasses that they've been using. I mean, maybe it could just be one of the grasses out of the mix becomes the dominant grass in that area.
It is a sensitive area, and I will see what we can do.
Little blue stem is a native grass and it stays short. It would be beautiful there. So that's my thought. That's my
I love
suggestion.
it. It's a beautiful grass. I agree.
Hey Mel, it's Diana. Could you send either the link or something, put it in the chat so they can look at the different, I think you showed that there were 3 different colors of that grass.
Sure, and we're looking at a few different, this is that, I'm sorry, click the wrong button.
So maybe ACAC could make a recommendation on the shade that is.
Well, I don't know if
I don't know.
I'm
just offering that up.
We're not there yet. We're still in concept, and that's like in the next stages of development. So when we get to that, I can bring it back and we can talk about colors. But we're still making sure that this is, the be all end all of the projects. Hold on, I got 2 screens.
There are a lot of complementary colors to choose from.
I think the staff landscape architect can do a much better job of taking all the intricacies and details of the design and select the right one. I don't think we want a group to select a color.
And we're not, because we still have competitive bids and process like this. We were turned on to this vendor, and I'm still not sharing the right thing. We were turned on to this vendor because this is the one that was being used for another project for a similar turf. And again, we're at the concept level, so we're not to picking colors and things just yet, but if you would like for me to bring back as we hit different, if this is approved, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself a little bit.
Well, I think we would like to see the final design
Mhm.
and the details associated with it. I think that would be, I think we'd appreciate being able to have some input as things get finalized.
Sure, and that of course is always a next step with any of these things, because as we go through this SPOS process, we have project concept, and then we move to schematic designs, and part of the schematic design process is getting input again from stakeholders. So I'm actually going to be sharing this with the Greenway Commission next week. I have all of you guys on my list, but yeah, there are some interesting, you've got summer green mixed with turf green, then you've got verde, lime, tan, and olive mixed, and then another summer green, turf green. So it looks like they really do try to blend these and make them natural. And they do have a few different formats of how it lays out. So this will be a tricky application due to the number of columns coming through it, but that's why we're trying to see if there's something we would rather have a minimal disturbance of kind of the soil around, and if we can either find something that we can just smooth the soils and then lay on top, which they do have an option like this, or something similar, because we don't want to end up coming around in here and trying to install something that requires 12 inches of a substructure. So we're being sensitive in our selection and what we're looking at for this. So
I have a question about something I heard you say about not maintaining sort of preserving the restoration work that's going on inside and outside of the fence. And you said if it's inside, one group has to do it, and if it's outside, another group has to do it.
that's what we're talking through right now is, and it's kind of, we have de-restored this area
Because of the artwork, right?
because, and so we are kind of taking on the ongoing maintenance of the landscape.
Gotcha.
As part of that.
Okay. And then right now, do you know, and I know it might come down to grading or where the fence lies or whatever, but right now, do you know, would it be, say, like artwork with the turf, and then you said something about a one mower width, and then it would be the fence immediately and that would be it? Or would there be maybe like some of that wildflower, et cetera, within the sort of fencing area as well? I'm just thinking about, I worry about it looking, I guess, too artificial or something, with if it was just so closed off from the area around it. And I just wondered like I don't know, what the sort of visual transition would be between, the turf and then wherever the wildflowers or native grasses begin, and then the fence.
I think you're kind of speaking the same language Marilyn was
Okay.
earlier, and looking at this, and part of this is I am going to be leaning heavily on our landscape architect to make this work from a design perspective, and he's got some pretty mad skills, so I have a lot of faith in him to be able to do this. And honestly, at this high level concept, we're not there. And that's why the schematic design phase is going to be important, because that's where we're going to be figuring out those details. And that's where we're going to have the location and layout and everything of the fence and doing that. But this, though it looks pretty detailed, really is a concept. So it's just, we know we want a trail. Here's the
Gotcha.
artwork, and
Thank you.
yeah, but it's definitely something that we're all thinking about.
So for me, part of the appeal and mystery and what makes Rainbow Forest so incredible is that it kind of looks like it was just one of those monoliths that gets placed somewhere and it wasn't. I think all of us are saying the same thing. We don't want the artificial look because it'll detract. I think even the fence in my opinion, is going to detract if you're walking on the the greenway and you look up and instead of just seeing rainbow forest, if you see a fence before you see rainbow forest, to me that's going to detract from the magic of rainbow forest. And so I'm actually not thrilled about the fence at all. I understand the concept and the reason for it, but I think it'll really detract from, how magical it actually is sitting up there um, as it is.
Well, this could be where the tall grasses become our friend. And the earlier comment, if we don't go like mown, to a fence, if we had because the tall grasses are going to be on the outside of the fence. If from the inside perspective, if we wanted to explore planting the tall grasses on the inside of the fence too, so the fence kind of becomes lost in the grasses, but it's still there as a physical barrier, but it's not sticking out. Would that help? I'm trying to imagine this as we're talking through it, and I'm writing all this down. So
I wonder if the kind of fencing would help. So something, I mean, I don't know if you know at this stage or if there's a standard one, like what kind of fence would be used. But I mean, I'm thinking to speak to Jan's point, what I would not want to see is something that totally blocks the view of the artwork or something, and you see and it's, oh, that's clearly a fence is what I'm looking at. Like a wooden privacy fence you might see in again, a neighborhood or something versus a fence with less sort of visual impact that would just sort of disappear in the grasses. That wouldn't bother
Well,
me.
and even if the landscape architect was able to make it look like a fence that was naturally created, or not naturally created, but a little less man-made, a little more creative or clever in the design, so that it's not just there's an ugly split rail fence blocking the view of this, artwork.
let me see if I can see if this is in Google Street View. Give me a second. Type. Okay. So if you've been further down MLK, that's the same type of fence that we were looking at to keep it. It's kind of our standard trails and open space greenway kind of fence that we use to keep people in or out of areas like the restoration areas, or to keep them from, keep a child from riding their bike into the street. It's just a basic, like a stop. So let me come to this area and drop a pin and see if this has shown up in Street View. Ah, yes, here it is. Okay. Thank you for being patient with me and all of my sharing challenges and pulling all these different things up. Okay, so this is the fence, and this is from when this was first done. If you've been through there now, it looks very different. But this is the 2-rail split rail fence I was referring to.
Do you happen to know the height?
It's a good question. Couldn't tell you off the top of my head, but I'm trying to see if there's something I can use for scale.
Oh, it's probably less than 4 feet.
I was going to say like 36 inches.
It looks roughly somewhere in the 36 range. It is less than 4 feet. I can say that with confidence.
Yeah, because the stone columns are about 4 feet, the ones that are at the entrance closer to North Ave.
And you can see, if you can see my little cursor, that spot over there is where the rainbow forest is at now. I don't know if you can see my cursor, but looking up the road, let's travel down the road a minute. Load. You can see here's where the path would be, and then the forest is up there. So, but yeah, the columns up here closer to North Avenue. Ooh, that was a fast trip. And you can see our trash receptacles here, and then they're taller than the fence is, so. Yeah, that's our fence. We don't have, I mean, we're flexible, but we were trying to stay in keeping with this standard fence style.
Okay, so do you need an action from us today?
I don't know if you want to vote on whether or not you approve of it in general as a project or a concept, so I can tell mayor and commission, because they'll ask, you know, what does ACAC think of it, or how would be the best way to convey what your feelings are on this project.
Mel,
And
This isn't the final schematic, so it's just a.
this is a concept. Like in concept, you know, I guess approve.
before we do that, I'm just wondering if the fence could be something that could be added later if there truly is a problem with people running around in that area. I could see more of a problem on the backside, north of that gridded area, maybe north and west. But there's a pretty steep slope as it grades down towards the main pathway. I'm not sure people would actually be trying to walk up that slope. So I'm just thinking that maybe we might not need a fence, you know, on all sides. Perhaps a fence could be on two sides, on the flattest sides, and then where there's more of a grade, that could be maybe added later as opposed to add it now, and you know, it becomes kind of a detraction from the view.
I know that there's fall planting coming from the sustainability office in the coming weeks, and they have a desire to go ahead and delineate the restoration area from the art area. And so there may be some fencing that goes ahead and goes up, no matter, you know, with this project or without, just for that protection of that area. I can have that conversation and see how they feel, but I do know they are trying to delineate that zone so they can protect it, especially because they're about to spend a fair amount of funding on getting those restoration plantings in place. So I don't know if they would, I don't know if that's a possibility, but I can ask.
Well, how would at what point would the fence be going up relative to the restoration effort?
I'm not 100% sure on fence timing. We had a site visit on Friday and we're discussing, and that was one of the reasons we're trying to get a rough grading plan so we can figure out how much we're impacting with the path project. With
This
the
would
access
be the
project.
final fence, right, Mel? This is just the temporary fence for planting.
Ah!
Or no? Okay.
I am doing everything that we need to do to ensure that the Office of Sustainability is comfortable with this project in relationship to their restoration project.
Well, now what about taking the wedge out between the art project, the existing concrete path, and the proposed concrete path? That's like creates kind of a triangular shape there. What if that was removed from the restoration area and it became a leisure services management area? Just throwing that out there. No, that's sacrilegious. I think you're muted. Mel, we can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. All right. So am I sharing the plan again? I hope. I keep switching.
It's the street view right now.
Oh. Okay. It says I'm sharing Microsoft PowerPoint. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing altogether and I'm going to do this again. Share content. PowerPoint. All right. Did that happen for you? You're seeing the PowerPoint now?
No.
Still the street view? All right. I'm going to. Google's going away.
Yeah.
Now we see it.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So you're talking about the wedge and everything. All right. Again, I can have the discussion. I don't know how much more restoration area we can eat up with this project because we're trying to minimize the footprint to the greatest extent possible. And I'm
Wow.
not sure what the requirements of the grant are as far as the restoration areas.
Can I ask, what is the wedge area? I'm not getting that.
Well, if you took that square, the bright green square where the rainbow forest is, and kind of draw continue the line, is this north and east? The western line, if you just drew a straight line all the way down to the existing concrete pathway, then,
Like that?
well, maybe on the other, I mean, I was thinking about the other side, so that along the pathway, we're preserving this sort of naturalized view up to the rainbow forest without a lot of fencing in between. And you could have the fencing. I wish I could draw on there.
Can you annotate? If you look up at the top of the screen where all of your controls are, there should be a squiggle one that says annotate. It's when I discovered this in WebEx, it was like one of the best days of my life.
For me,
I don't live a very exciting life, so.
it's so exciting for me, Helen, that it says ask to annotate. The squiggle line is sort of just like in the left, just on the left hand side of where her presentation is, if that helps.
Oh yeah, I see it.
You see
Okay.
it?
Okay, I'm going to request to annotate. I requested. Somebody
I hit
approved.
approve, so it popped up for me and I hit approve. So
So if you took this line right there, and
it's working.
and then this line right there, and this becomes leisure services, and everything else is, natural areas, but you could still plant this area all in here with native grasses, and and it's still going to look consistent with what's going on over here. It's just that, when you're standing here, you want to be able to see up to that. You want that view that we all had at the ribbon cutting, which was, these stunning columns coming up out of the ground. If you let a lot of tall grasses grow up, you're going to see the tops of the columns instead of the full height of the columns. So anyway, I'm just saying, if you could carve this out for leisure services and, plant lower growing grasses here and then install the fence here, make an L shape with a fence so that the fence disappears into the native landscape and isn't, in front of your view.
Hold on, I just gotta see if I did something right so I can capture this. Yep. Okay, I did a screenshot while you were drawing that, so thank you. That way I captured your wedge.
The wedge.
The wedge. I have the wedge. It is immortalized now, so I can have the wedge discussion and properly identify it. So this is great. I love technology. This is wonderful. Thank you. That will help me and asking those questions. So now you know the power of annotation and how much fun it can be in these meetings.
Yeah, that was fun.
Mel, this is Dee
Yes.
Dee. Is that part of the downtown mapping? Does the downtown district go into that area?
It does not.
Okay.
I'm not sure how far away it is from the boundary, but it does not go into the downtown mapping.
Any other questions for Mel? We do need to move on to other business.
Thank you, Mel.
Yeah, thank you guys. I'm sorry it took like a whole hour of your time.
It's all good.
You
It's all good.
guys
We
know
can.
this.
There was a lot of discussion.
You guys are great and have given me so much great
We
feedback.
have a
Like
lot of questions around here.
I really appreciate this. Like this is the kind of feedback I live for, is actually people engaged and caring and asking great questions. So thank you guys for your time on this. I do appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
So the ACAC vote should be on whether to move forward with the proposal at this point. Do you need it to be more specific than that?
I really, this is uncharted territory for me. So I think it's just, do you approve moving forward? This is a concept, and applying for the grant, I think I'm all about if we can match 80% of a project with grant funds.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Cool. We get that as a motion from a member.
Now, just to clarify, we're not committing to any type of fencing or anything. It's just, whether or not they apply for this grant, basically.
And based on this loose concept, which we obviously don't have the details because we're at concept level, not schematic design, but I can bring this forward to you during the schematic design process. And that way, as we start to figure things out, you guys can weigh in again and we can get more feedback.
Would it be helpful if we said, because it feels to me like we're all in agreement that the idea of making it more accessible to everyone is supported by all of us. Would that be true? So we fully support the idea of having a grant to make this more accessible to everyone. And we support the concept plan.
Would it be also helpful?
I think we could move to approve the concept for inclusive access grant. Approve the moving forward on the grant for inclusive access, and the major components being the trail and the turf elements.
Sounds
That's the
great.
concept. It's
As Helen just stated, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Wait, don't we need a second before we?
Uh,
Can I second it if
okay.
I'm the secretary? If
Yeah,
so,
you can
I
second
second. Okay, great. Thank you.
Robert's dead. We're all making up the rules. Okay. So all in favor, what Helen just said, please say aye.
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 Mel, can you unshare your screen so we could see everybody's hands? Sorry.
Thank you. Darcy, you poor thing.
Are there any opposed?
Any opposed? Okay.
Great.
Thank you, Mel. If we could fly through the rest of the project reports,
Thank you guys. Bye-bye.
that would help us have a reasonable dinner time after this meeting. So yeah, Tatiana, I will leave it to you, and I'll reserve comments for the outreach portion of the agenda.
Okay, I'll leave Clayton for the, and since we have some discussion with that one. So I'll start with, Rainbow Forest. Obviously that is now wrapped up. We have Andrew still needs to do his final report portion of that, and then that will be completed. We got to cut a ribbon and everything, uh, despite the weather. So thank you for everyone who helped with that project and who came to the dedication in the rain and all that fun stuff. I did, for those of us who came a little bit later, there's a link in the chat of some really cool photos with aerial photos of the installation. Also, in the works are performers who didn't get to perform at the opening, at the dedication because of the weather. We did go ahead and pay them because they were there and they were ready to perform otherwise. And they are working on music videos in the Rainbow Forest that they're going to share with me that we can post on our social media and stuff. So that'll be kind of a nice little consolation for not getting those live performances. So I'll share those with everyone once those are in. Those are happening this week. So cooperative extension, fire hall, the dedication of course got postponed. The fire department is not doing any group events right now, just to kind of keep the firefighters safe from everyone's germs, because they're, we don't really want to have too many firemen out if they're sick, so they're getting extra cautious. So that is postponed indefinitely. Perhaps when we do the cooperative extension dedication, maybe we can stagger those together since they're on the same campus more or less. So the cooperative extension, that's our Origins project, the David Hale, Pete McCarron, David Harrison project. They have been back at it, and they are looking to complete that this month. They started back kind of mid-August. They were hoping to have it finished by the end of August, but the weather wasn't super cooperative with what they were doing. So that is underway. I'll keep everyone posted with that. Dudley Park, that's our heron sighting mosaic with Krisha. She just completed that last week. It looks really beautiful. I haven't posted pictures yet because it's the site isn't open. That pavilion that they're building, it's on the back side of that building. I can email some photos out to everyone. They're in my phone. Otherwise, I would share them here. But it does look absolutely amazing. And I don't have a plan, a date yet for the dedication for the building. That's going to be coming from the SPLOS folks. And so the building, that pavilion that they're building in Dudley Park with the artwork on the side, those things will be dedicated at the same time since they're kind of wrapping up together. So that'll be kind of a nice event, probably next month or so when they're all finished. There's some landscaping things that they're wrapping up, but if anyone's over on that Firefly Trail side of Dudley Park, kind of near where Trail Blossom, Rick Herzog's piece is, that's where the pavilion is. So if you're over in that area, you can go check it out, even though it's not open. We also, lots of projects wrapping up this past month. The Whitehall Roundabout sculpture has been installed. And so that is, the dedication is tentatively planned for October 15th. I'm still waiting on a couple people to get that confirmed, but that's going to be at 10:30. So that's a mid-morning one on Friday, October 15th. So just maybe loosely save the date and I'll let everyone know when that's firm. We also announced the Poet Laureate, finally. So yay, everyone was really excited. It was nice to see so much support for that brand new program. And it was probably one of our most shared social media posts ever, maybe. Everyone loves Jeff. There's Nate. Say hi, Nate.
Hey, cultural affairs.
All right, go away. Anyway, so Laureate was announced. His first event is coming up September 25th it's one of our pop-up park events. That's going to be, if you scroll down the bottom of the agenda, that's going to be at Highland Greens Mobile Home Park, noon to 2 on the 25th on Danielsville Road. He's going to be doing a poetry activity with the kids there. And of course, there'll be all the usual pop-up park recreational things going on for that neighborhood. For those not familiar with the pop-up park, that is a new leisure services initiative that essentially brings a park to a neighborhood that doesn't have a park. So it can set up in a parking lot, and they set up all kinds of games and things for the kids, and there's educational stuff. So there's a lot of opportunity for us to collaborate with them on different projects, art projects, and things like that for the kiddos there. So of course, we all know that Athfest was canceled. Or maybe some of you don't, but yes, Athfest was canceled because of how everything is going with this COVID spike. So for Music Walk of Fame, I don't know if a fall event is going to really be doable. It may be something in the spring. I don't know. We'll have to kind of reconvene because we did have a plan to do an announcement during Athfest with the mayor, and that was going to be a nice thing with the table and the whole thing. And so that's not happening, unfortunately. So, and then Greenway 2 and Firefly 2. Greenway 2, there was a site visit that was, what was that, last month? And then Firefly Trail 2, we just had a site visit today with the user group, and Helen was our ACAC representative with the group. That's just sort of, we walked that brand new section of the Firefly Trail, which is over by the racetrack on the east side. It's a very, very long, flat stretch. So the group is still kind of mulling over some potential ideas. We talked about wayfinding pieces and gateway pieces because there's not a huge footprint available for a large piece. Helen brought up maybe doing something long and skinny along the trail would be a good possibility. Definitely something three-dimensional. There's really no place for anything 2D for a mural or anything like that. It's just a big, long, straight, flat stretch. There's one section that's kind of 2/3 of the way down into the trail where there's a bit of a bump out with some benches, and a water fountain is going in there. It's in the direct sun. There's no shade. There are going to maybe be trees planted in this area. So, but another thing that was discussed was some sort of sculptural shade type device that could kind of serve as sort of a, an awning or not quite a pavilion, but something that would maybe curve and go over where people would be sitting on these benches. So a few things were discussed, and there's going to be some follow-up discussions. So no recommendation from that user group just yet. And then Clayton, Diane and I both met with Eric Lashinsky and talked about his schematic plan. He just submitted a new schematic plan for us for some of his what is he calling them, Diana?
Modules.
Frequency is the name of the title for the whole piece. So some of his frequency modules that are going to be in different parts of the Clayton Street cityscape. We discussed the placement of some of those with Central Services and Transit and Public Works, because they had some concerns about right-of-way and the flow of pedestrian traffic and making sure things stay really accessible. So he's had to go back and just adjust some things. There's also a lot of discussion about how these pieces are going to be anchored into the cement. But things are underway, and that is looking like a spring install, spring of 2022. And Diana, since you're the queen of Clayton Street,
Oh,
I'm going to let you take it away if you have any Clayton things to share.
no, we still haven't heard back on the eco stations yet. Still waiting from Suki's group to come up with what that's going to look like. So then we could possibly put out, a call for, or you guys could put out a call for art for wrapping those, if that's what the decision is.
So yeah, that was something we had discussed. For those who don't remember, these eco stations, it's basically a dumpster, but like a double wide dumpster that would have a enclosure around it. And these are going to be along Clayton Street. They're not super aesthetically pleasing on their own. So there's talk of just wrapping them like, we would a bus or a truck or something like that with, this could be a local call for some two-dimensional art. What we could do is just take the template for the size of the eco station and have those ready to just upload in your computer and lay your design over the top of them and something like that. So that could be a really accessible, smaller budget project for local artists once we're ready for that, with the template. And those would be along Clayton Street as well. It's not part of the Clayton Street SPLOST project. It's just its own piece.
Well, the eco stations are.
Well, I mean, but it's not, the budget isn't part of the art budget.
Right. Right. And
then,
just to be thinking and adding on to that is the eco stations are actually going to go all through downtown. So it could be that we start with something on Clayton and then it could extend, to downtown.
But one of the things we had discussed with Eric is he's not going to have much of a lengthy install. These sculptural components are all going to be prefabricated. They just need to be installed on the site in their locations. But he did say he was interested in possibly having a local assistant to help with the install. Talked about him working with the contractors that are already working on Clayton Street to assist with the coring of the where the pieces go in, sort of like how parking meters are installed. They sort of core into the concrete and the post goes down into it, so it's a little smoother. There's been a lot of discussion about flanges and different ways to connect these pieces. This would be a little bit more secure and probably a little more aesthetically pleasing in terms of just having it flow right into the ground. So he wouldn't be relying too heavily on that assistant, but it would be an opportunity that we could supplement with a local person. So that was one of the things to vote on. We can, limit what that budget would be. He's looking at less than a week of time installing these.
What would be the advantage to a local artist doing this?
Just learning more about the installation process. In addition to being an artist, Eric is a city planner. So he just has a very unique expertise that made him kind of unique for this job. So I could see the potential for someone to, just learn more about that process, city planning. How do you develop a streetscape? And then of course, how do you
But I mean, but really it would just
So-
be manual labor, correct?
Minimally, yeah, because he'd be working with, Eric's gonna be working with the Clayton Street contractors with a lot of the heavy construction.
The Rainbow Forest had, was it 2 artist assistants? And it was a lot of manual labor, but I'm sure Tatiana, you've heard a lot more than I have, but just anecdotally, I know one of the artist assistants, she said it was a huge like development opportunity for her to get to work with these professional artists and just kind of see what the process was like without, you know, being the one who's actually leading the process. So I think there's, you know, there is the manual work, which is part of being an artist, but then there's also just learning all the ins and outs of the process. So I think it's really valuable for the artist community here to get to learn how to do that kind of work.
Yeah. The general feedback from our Rainbow Forest artists, and I did put together a more formal feedback form for them that I don't think they've done it just yet. I just sent that out last week. But just in doing a little debriefing after their project, they both learned a lot and they both feel like they could apply for a public art, you know, call and do a proposal and feel confident about being able to do it, not just apply, but be able to actually execute it, now that they've had that experience, whereas before they probably wouldn't have applied. So
So,
Before we
oh, go ahead, Andrew.
vote on whether or not to pursue a local artist assistant for this project, I do feel obligated to draw attention to our budget. So our only pool of budget that can be used for things like that is 21,000 a year. We spent more than a third of that in the month of August with all of the expenses around the artist assistants for Rainbow Forest and other the lecture and the entertainment costs for the ribbon cutting. So of that 21,000 for our operating budget, of which arts and community awards do need to be administered from, that's our only budget source for that too. Of that 21,000, only just under 13,500 is remaining. So we spent 7,500 or just over a third of that operating budget in the month of August. So it doesn't leave a lot for a round of arts and community awards as we've done them in the past. We need to do those in the spring and in the fall this year. That is our obligation to the mayor and commission in leaving that budget alone, not reducing it, because that used to be how we paid for our part-time labor to administer ACAC work. And so if we are going to fund more local artist assistants, which I think in theory is a great idea, we might need to think about how we do arts and community awards this year. Maybe instead of doing 3 awards each of 1,500 as we've done each spring for years now, maybe we just do 2 this year, 2 in the fall, 2 in the spring, because if we are going to give our website an overhaul, guess what? That can only come out of our operating budget. So we're pretty hamstrung until that budget goes up, which is what I think we should request of the mayor and commission in the next budgeting cycle.
Andrew, is that calendar year or fiscal year?
Fiscal year. So the fiscal year just started July 1st.
Wow.
So yeah, 2 months in, we spent 7,500 of that 21,000.
But keeping in mind, I mean, we don't have a lot of expenses other than what we're talking about here with the grants. It's not like we need like supplies or things like that. It's like we have most of that stuff. So it's really a question of like how much do we want to do for the community, the arts and community awards, and then so I kind of thought about it in 2 ways. It's like either we do fewer of them or we do more of them at like maybe a slightly lesser amount, so maybe $1,000 instead of 1,500. So I think that's just we have to decide what you guys think is the best option there.
I think if we do lesser amounts, then the artists that are chosen are going to want us to pay assistants to help them.
Right.
It's a vicious circle.
Yeah, I mean, 1,500 is already kind of the bare minimum for a robust public art project. So
We've never done assistance for Arts and Community Awards.
No,
That's
we
it's
don't
really
do
like we
assistance
pay
for
and then
that,
it's
yeah.
all on the organizer. We don't, so there wouldn't be
Okay,
artist
okay.
assistance for that.
The-
That's
the
just for
whole
like
point,
major
yeah.
splash
Yeah, the
projects.
whole point with the artist assistant is when we have a non-local artist, which is what Eric is, working on a project. This is sort of a way to say, even though we have a non-local artist working on this project, there's still an opportunity for a local artist built into that.
I'd still like to see that be more specific, what this artist is going to provide for this essentially an intern.
Yeah, I think that each one of these projects needs its own job description, as well as a designation for not just an artist who is not local, but also at a certain price point.
yeah, if we
Right.
just do it for non-local artists, then we're subsidizing projects with non-local artists as leads.
Whatever it is.
Yeah, it needs to be above, if it, let's say, you know, if it's a project above 30,000, if that's the threshold, then every project above that,
Yeah.
regardless of where the lead artist is from, gets an
Hot Corner
artist
was
assistant.
25 and Greenway was 55.
Yeah.
It's just examples of past projects.
How much are we trying to budget for the website if we get that done in this fiscal year?
Hmm.
I mean, that's a big chunk. If we only have 13 or so left, that would be a big chunk, I would think.
Yeah, I don't know, Helen, I think you're probably the best person to answer that question. We haven't really, to my knowledge, we haven't really started. We had one outreach meeting about it. We haven't really started like putting that together yet.
We did discuss the bid process and how, since, you know, it is a service over $1,000, that we need to get three bids for that. So there would be some type of call, like an RFQ, like a request for qualifications.
And the limit for that is $1,000?
Anything over $1,000, we have to do that process for a service. If it's not like a project, like one of our SPLOS projects or something like that, if it's just like, you know, wanting to build a website or wanting to hire a photographer or anything like that, if it's over $1,000, we're supposed to get 3 bids.
And that's the county's
Yes.
guideline?
Yes.
Do we have all of the information that would go on a website like ours? Are we, do we have like an outline of everything we would want on it so that we can put out for a good bid?
No, we haven't done any of that yet. That's all in very, you know, yeah. We discussed it in our outreach meeting. What was that? Couple weeks ago?
Yeah, it was really just sort of Patrice reporting out on sort of goals and ideas, and that's kind of where we left it. So we're like pre-provisional on that, honestly.
Yeah, so we don't have to decide all of these today. I just wanted to let you know that it's not as simple as deciding whether to bring on another assistant for Clayton Street. There's a lot of other conversations that we need to have in tandem with that decision. I mean, if like $1,000 worth of labor was useful for Clayton Street and recon and, you know, anything else, then, you know, $1,000 probably isn't going to kneecap us. Anything more than that, I think we need to be a lot more intentional about this decision, because, right, we have to subtract something out for the budget. We have to subtract something out for the Arts and Community Awards, and you know that's already a lot of algebra, and we're arts people.
Yeah.
And we don't know what the variables are. So
I have a question, Andrew, real quick. So you said we are sort of bound to the Mayor and Commission. Is that for the 2 rounds of Arts and Community Awards? That's based on what we sort of proposed last year. Okay, so that's top priority. We have to do that in some way, whatever.
we have to do one in the fall and one in the spring.
Right.
Yes.
But how it shakes out, that's sort of, we can still discuss. Is it still what it has been, or is it, you know, something else?
Right.
If we
The
did
website,
it,
that's different. We're not bound to that yet. So I'm just
We're
thinking
not.
about sort of setting priorities for like what's the process of, since we don't have that much, we have to set priorities, I guess.
if we did it the way we have been doing it, it would be $4,500 for
Yeah,
3.
3 times
So
1,500.
so that would be $9,000.
Yeah, if 45 in the
Did it.
spring, 45 in the
If
fall.
we did it the way we have been doing it, so we
Right.
would have $4,000 to play with for the rest of the year.
Right, and that's like expenses for ribbon cuttings.
Mhm.
It's
Any kind of outreach stuff.
moving costs for the piano project. It might even be the honorarium for the poet laureate. That's $1,000 right there. There's a lot of things that this $21,000 has to do, and that, if we have a problem this year, that builds the case for increasing that budget next fiscal year, but that's not a problem that gets solved before June 30th, the end of the fiscal year. So I mean, we do have lots of things. Our wish list is getting longer, and that's a great thing. But I don't think that $21,000 operating budget is commensurate with the wants and needs of our community, to say nothing of ourselves.
Is there a deadline to when we need to have a decision about the fall and the spring and numbers and?
There's not. So next month we can talk about how to execute a fall cycle of arts and community awards. But I don't know if deciding on an assistant for Clayton can wait another month or not.
Yeah, it's not being installed till
Yeah, I
spring.
was going to say he's not going to install it until April. I think you guys can wait.
If we can wait, yeah, great.
And then I would also just say the other thing to think about is with the acceleration of all of the SPLOST 2020 projects, art's going to come fast and hard.
Yeah,
Okay. And it's awesome.
it already is. It's a great thing.
Yeah. So all the more reason why you might need some more budget.
Yes. So in my mind, the thing we need to do between budget now and budgeting season, which is really February, is to have all of these things answered, and then to anticipate, what specifically do we need on our operating budget next fiscal year and beyond to maintain a robust public art program in our county. It's a tall order, but yeah, this is the year to ask for that budget to be increased.
I also feel like we have a leg to stand on about the poet laureate because it was such an extended period of time. So, we had it in our budget for last fiscal year.
We do. That was it's a 2-year term, and it's a $2,000 honorarium, just for those who didn't know, payable $1,000 each year. So that will be this fiscal year next, for that $1,000.
I don't know. I can ask. I don't know if we can make a case of taking that out of last fiscal year's budget, since that, I don't know. But
It
he
was
didn't actually sign his
extended.
contract to this fiscal year, so I don't think
Right.
that's gonna work, but it would be nice because we had it.
Can I make a motion that we table the decision about voting, paying an assistant for the Clayton Street install until at least the October meeting or possibly later?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Well, you did it for a second.
Any opposed? All right.
If you're opposed, say so verbally because I can't see everybody on the screen. Thank you.
Oh, yes.
Well, are there any opposed? Then
No.
Thank you.
Anything else under projects? Okay. So yeah, we've had really, really great conversations in our monthly strategy team meetings. if first of all, if you haven't been assigned to a team, I would encourage all of you to either join the strategy or the outreach teams. Right now, what's going on with the strategy team is we're reading the public art master plan together, like a little book club. We're doing it in thirds. So we discussed the first third this week, and then that's a conversation that will continue in October and then November. And deciding what we want our priorities to be as a group when it comes to our non-splost effort and workload, which our public art master plan has a lot of non-splost things for us to do as well. Parallel conversations with what the workload for ACAC, our volunteer body, is going to be, and what the clear delineation is between our work that has to be done and the work that county employees should be doing. I expect more clarity on that in the next month or two. So that would be that's a future conversation, but all ideas, nothing is binding yet. So all ideas can be shared at this point in time, and any idea really has merit. 2 years ago, on a meeting where we barely had quorum because it was like December and we hadn't onboarded new members yet, the same meeting where we agreed to where we approved the poet laureate concept, we also approved a mural fest concept for us to move forward with. And that is something for us to consider how to, maybe in a couple months, we can have its own work group of ACAC members and community members to start having that conversation. But in the meantime, I would encourage all of us to do some independent research on what mural fests have meant in different communities. Communities of all shapes and sizes have had and executed mural fests that look dramatically different from one another. So I will share the proposal for the mural fest to all current members that don't expect anything elaborate. It was like something that we had to look at to vote upon 2 years ago. And again, ACAC did vote on Mural Fest as a concept to move forward with. If you're hunting for a team and deciding between strategy and outreach, outreach really needs bodies. So if you're indifferent, that's where you should go. With Patrice moving and our numbers already not being that many for the outreach team, if you're on the fence, that would be a great one to join. Yes, it's just Madeline and Helen right now. And there's a lot more work to be done on the outreach front than just Madeline and Helen, since that's including our website as well, in addition to normal, more typical outreach things. One real positive note that I wanted to share is that our Athens Music Walk of Fame was on national television last weekend. During the Georgia game, a few of the plaques were featured and got some airtime. REM is the only one I've seen so far, but there were others, right? Really, really good publicity for the work that we do. And I'll point out that our fabrication cost for each of those markers is under $1,000. So really, really good buzz, national buzz from what really is a cost-effective public art project. So good job. Not only is Rainbow Forest on the flagpole cover right now of the current issue, but our Athens Music Walk of Fame was on national television. That's a pretty good week for ACAC. I have nothing else. Do we want to share arts happenings in our own little orbits?
Hold on,
Before we adjourn? It looks like Madeline has other things.
I do. Or Marilyn, did you want to go first?
Well, I wanted to go back to strategy team, and of course outreach. It used to be that we always got minutes, a description of what the team was, their responsibilities, and we always got minutes from the meetings that would be shared during this meeting.
That's a great practice.
Yeah, it would help us be a little more knowledge so that we don't bring up something that's already being dealt with because we didn't know about it. And the old outreach always was about getting out publicity and all sorts of different things. And it seems to me as though that's what Tatiana does. I understand the website, but maybe would help to know what their goals are, or is outreach as it is now what we really want? Do we need to, I mean, we've got a couple of things. We need to know, and I've talked to you about this, Andrew, what Tatiana's responsibilities are in her job, and then define what our responsibilities are so there's no crossover. So we're not trying to do what she's supposed to do, and she's not trying to do what we're supposed to do. And so that's all information I think we need to work with. Am I overstepping my bounds, or I am?
Oh, no, you're correct, Marilyn.
You're correct, Marilyn. And Andrew and I and Tatiana have talked about this, and some of this is like we're looking at like the process of how one project gets brought. And so I'm looking at it from like, where is the SPLOST part? Where is the ACC leisure services part? Where is the ACAC part? And I started to go down that as like looking at it from the course of how things progress as a project, and got sort of siderolled very quickly because it's very convoluted and every project is actually very, very different from one another. And so I just need a little more time, and I have to ask a few more people. In fact, I had some dialogue today that just basically gave me more work to do, to figure it out more. It's something that we created this position, and I'm grateful for it. We wrote a job description for it, but then we sort of just like, we're off to the races, and there's all these projects have come to completion all at once. Now we're cutting ribbons and drinking lemonade in the sun, and it's like we're still sort of a little bit confused about all these boundaries. But I assure you that I'm working on it. Andrew and I have been in dialogue about it. So is Tatiana and I, believe me. We will arrive at something, and we can all weigh in on it. There'll be an opportunity for all of us to have a chance to see, like, yes, this is what we think. We're sort of shaping this in a whole new way. And I know that we will arrive at something that is useful and efficient and more clear than what we have now. So please bear with me.
And our bylaws don't offer any help either. Our bylaws don't mention SPLOST a single time. Needless to say, whose responsibilities are whose isn't delineated at all. It's no longer a sound practice for us to be operating with the workload that we have without those roles and responsibilities clearly delineated.
Right.
And we're paying for the fact that we haven't had that conversation, earlier. But again, no time like the present. But give us a couple of months on this, I think.
I like, Marilyn, thanks for sharing the point about outreach and strategy group should be taking minutes and then sharing them here. That makes a lot of sense. Helen and I, i.e. outreach team, have not met yet since Patrice left, because we just met a couple weeks ago, but we can get another meeting on the books. And then I saw Montu put in the chat that he would like to join outreach. So we'll get him in on that. But under that, we kind of moved past it, but under outreach on the agenda is Arts and Community Awards. Is that something that's going to fall squarely in outreach, and that's the subcommittee for it? Or I know last year we didn't really have an outreach team, so we kind of just asked for volunteers for who wants to be involved. I would love to be involved and get the ball rolling however
I
is
think
possible.
it's best to do that as we've always done, like who has the bandwidth for this right now, and make its own working group that really just only needs to meet until the awards are allocated. So that seems like the best way to do it, just because that has worked well.
Yeah. Can we get volunteers for that now? Because it's fall.
Sure.
Here we are. I would love to volunteer. I've done the past couple, and I feel like I've learned a lot, and it's been great. And yeah, who else would like to be involved?
Madeline, I will. Jan.
Ideally, at least 3 or 4 people, I think. I don't know that there's really a limit, but ideally we would at least get 3 or 4 based on how we've done it over the last year and a half. I thought that worked well.
Maybe we could send out an email to the whole group since not everybody's here and see who.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
we're
People
missing
drop
3
off.
people and Mickey. So okay, and that's something ex officio can join as well.
Anybody
Okay,
at all.
Sweet. Okay, I'll send out an email about it, or I'll put it in the minutes as well. So. Okay, that's the only thing I wanted to make sure we didn't pass by without talking about. And then I guess we will have to wait until next month to vote on the sort of budget for what that would be, because we want to get this
Since we're in
the
a
group to kind of
situation right
read about
now,
it
let's
first.
wait a
Okay.
month and kind of chew on it.
Okay. That sounds good.
I mean, if we say we could only do 2 in the fall, that's fine. You know, I would be the one at the budgeting call with the mayor and commission, and we could tell them how the past year went and how we want future years to go, and that's part of the dialogue. We're not going to have enough in our operating budget to do everything that we want to do to the extent that we want to do it, and that's just inevitable at this point. Spending a third in August, which we knew we had some wiggle room, but I think that was our wiggle room.
I also feel like we should highlight to mayor and commission the value of having the assistance, and that's why that budget got.
Absolutely,
I
absolutely.
feel like it's such a valid expense.
Yeah, and once I have all that feedback, like I said, I did make a Google form for our artist assistants, not just for Greenway. I shared it with Broderick as well, since he was our first artist assistant with the Hot Corner project. So at least we'll have 3 examples of local artists and how they benefited from that program, and they're all enthusiastic about sharing their experience. So, we may, just have them write up a formal essay or something, and we can submit that, to the mayor and commission if we need to make a case for how we've spent these funds.
That could be a good article too, if somebody wants to flag it to the flagpole.
Not a bad idea, really. Cool. Anything else about our monthly business? Okay.
I do have one more question about the vacant vice chair position. Can we volunteer people to do that, or can we nominate people to do that? Not necessarily right now, but I just wonder, I just don't want it to be vacant for.
Start having private conversations with each other. Nudging is strongly encouraged. Last time we did this, it took months for Patrice to raise her hand, and we're all glad she did. No need for that to happen again. Let's not drag this out. The pain is being taken out of this. It really is. Okay, any arts happenings to share?
I have a happening coming up. My work is going to be exhibited at Bar, which is a new little shop on South Village in the 5 Points area. And I don't know if any of you know Barbette Hauser, but she has started this new venue. It's beautiful. She sort of specializes in antique textiles and home goods, and she's got amazing taste. But anyway, she is going to be showcasing local artists once a month in her shop, and I am going to be the next one up in September. So there's going to be an opening on Thursday, the 16th from 7 to 9. If anybody would like to show up, and she's going to have beverages on the porch. The building has a little outdoor porch, so it will be COVID friendly. Anyway, so
Cool. Thursday this week, Helen?
this week, yes,
Cool.
this Thursday, and the exhibit will be up until October 9th. So if you can't make it on Thursday, the shop is open, and I'm sorry I don't have the hours right in front of me, but anyway, you can Google it, and it's a delightful shop.
Where is it exactly?
It's 1354 South Millage, and it's right across the street from El Barrio, if you know where that is. Just
I think
down.
I saw the sign going by today.
Yeah, it looks like a house, and it's been restored. It got a historic preservation award this year. It's a really lovely venue.
That's awesome, Helen. Congratulations. I'm going to try
Thank
to
you.
I have
I'm
been wanting to see
excited.
that shop, so that's very cool.
Well, yeah, now you have an excuse. Everyone should go to this shop. Honestly, it's like therapy going in there. It is so beautiful.
Ellen, where do you park? Do you just park in 5 Points, or is there a parking lot in the back?
There is a parking lot in back.
And Helen, what time did you say the little opening Thursday? What time?
It starts at 7. It's from 7 to 9. And let's see, there's a law office building right next door to the south, and then that's where the driveway is to get into it. I think there's also a driveway that comes into the parking lot off of Millage Terrace.
Cool. Other happenings?
Our bar is our newest Third Thursday member because it is Third Thursday. Congratulations, Helen. We have an online gallery talk at the Linden House Art Center with Andy Cherowick and Jeffrey Whittle. And you can find out that information on Facebook, on our website, to register for the Zoom. And that's from 6 to 7. So you could make it a double header.
At Creature Conference, we are in the midst of our artistic season. So our artist in residence this fall is Nora James, and he's doing live art sessions every Sunday from 3 to 6 in our tap room. And the work of art he's developing during this process is on display all the time, so you can see it sort of go from the we're halfway through his residency, so it's about halfway done. You can see that kind of change over the weeks. And we have an event with him next Tuesday called Meet the Artist, which is an interactive event. So there'll be sort of hands-on creative things to do together. And that's the formal event that's coming up, I think, is the Meet the Artist event next week.
Cool. Anything else? Well, all right. Thanks, everybody. A lot happening. Thanks for all your attention to